Hello there, I'm Louise Brady and welcome to Top 10 Bikes 2003. We've gathered together a panel of experts who have passed their beady eyes over the machines in this year's categories and have voted to give you the definitive guide to the bikes of 2003. Well, here it is, the coveted award that will be presented to the manufacturer of this week's #1 machine. The question is, which one will it be? Well, stay with us and this week's winner will be unveiled a little later in the show. I'm one of the panellists, and as the show progresses, you'll get the opportunity to meet the other journalists involved. So, let's get started on the countdown of this week's categories, insurance-friendly bikes. Well, one area of biking that we all gripe about is the cost of insurance, especially if you're just starting out in biking. So this week, we're going to help you hang on to those hard-earned pennies of yours, should you be unlucky enough to sling your pride and joy down the road in a crescendo of sparks and scraping plastic. Now, all these bikes are considered cheap to insure, so let's get on with the chart. Underpowering its way into the 10th spot is the Suzuki GS500E. Originally launched with some sporting pretensions, remember the slingshot decal, anyone? It soon found its niche as an inexpensive all-rounder for the less discerning rider. It also has the benefit of being Insurance Group 7. Now, there are many better bikes in this class, but none cheaper, and the price has ensured lasting popularity. Now, the GS500E is ideal for beginners, as it handles the abuse and crashes that learners tend to dish out. The low and narrow seat height means it's easy to get your feet down at short notice. The handling is fine and matches the bike's performance to a T. Unfortunately, the build quality leaves a lot to be desired. Ride it through the winter and you may well see it dissolve before your very eyes. The GS500E is about as basic and bland as they come, and it probably lists watching paint dry as one of its hobbies. Let's find out what the panel think.
The GS500E, well, it handles quite sharply. The engine's buzzy and laboured, and the suspension's a bit bouncy, and the brakes feel like they're made of oak. No, don't want one, thank you.
The only thing with the Suzuki is the finish is a big problem. The exhausts rot, the downpipes rot. Nothing really seems to have had any layer of either paint or chromium put on this bike.
The Suzuki GS500E was once a good motorbike, but now is so old, so antiquated, and feels it when you ride it that it's just probably best avoided.
Well, I have to say, I think it's a very dull motorcycle indeed. A typical grassroots commuter. It doesn't have any character, it's just simply a machine to get you from A to B. So our combined scores for each category of street cred, build quality, performance, comfort and value give the Suzuki GS500E a total score of, don't fall off your seats, 55%, putting it firmly in 10th in our chart. In at number 9 is the Honda VT125 Shadow. Honda's little VT125 shares more than its looks with its bigger brother. A little bike it may be, but it's certainly no lightweight, coming in at just under 150 kilos, which makes it a little harder to handle at low speeds than some 125s. Now, from a distance, you're able to convince people you're riding a full-size cruiser. That is, as long as they don't hear the engine. Swing a leg over it and it feels like you have to fall down to sit in the saddle, which hovers a minute 680mm above ground level. Performance is, hardly surprisingly, pretty poor, with a measly 15 brake horsepower engine struggling to get this bike moving. Insurance is a lowly Group 4, which is partly a result of having little performance to speak of, but also no expensive plastics to replace in case of an accident. Let's find out what the panel think.
It's a comfy little bike. It's great for what they're used for, which is getting you accustomed to riding a bike, finding your feet.
The Shadow VT125, well, they're extremely well made, and after that you're struggling. It's absolutely bland, totally generic. It'll move you along the road, and it won't move you in any other way at all.
I think the Shadow is for all those people out there who, like David Hasselhoff, You see, it's one of those cheesy bikes, but I do think it is a tad better than the GS 500e because at least the little Honda has aspirations to be something bigger. So our panel's combined scores for each of those categories give the little Honda VT 125 Shadow a total score of 60%, putting it firmly in 9th place in our top 10 chart. At this week's number 8, we have the Yamaha 600 Diversion. Introduced in '92, the Diversion started the trend for budget middleweight all-rounders. Its combination of low cost, capable performance and straightforward riding position meant that for the first time, if you wanted a 600, it didn't have to be a sports bike. The Diversion isn't about to set the world alight with its speedy, sporty performance. What makes it fun to ride is its easy power delivery. The power is spread throughout the rev range, making it a doddle to deal with in town. No lurching through the traffic with this baby.
The Yamaha 600 Diversion is a good old-fashioned motorcycle, 4 cylinders, air-cooled, bargain bucket basement, but works.
Great commuter bike, you can abuse it, it stands up pretty well to all weathers, and it's a reasonably priced machine.
It's not going to deliver a lot of thrills, but what it does do is it won't miss a beat, it will keep going long after probably some of the other parts of the bike have corroded away.
It's very flat and suspension feels crude. It's cheap, but it feels cheap, and no, I'm not a fan.
So by adding our panel scores for each of those categories gives the versatile Yamaha 600 Diversion a total score of 62%, placing it 8th in our insurance-friendly chart. Rolling in at number 7, we have Kawasaki's ER5. The ER5 is the Learner Special or the Courier King. Its tractable engine, sharp handling and superb brakes make it ideally suited for either party. Many of you will have seen this bike being ridden with L plates on, and when equipped with the optional engine guards, it's perfect for those riders with limited experience that fancy a big style bike. On the other extreme, fit a top box and you can hoon through central London at breakneck speed delivering packages. Price-wise, this bike is a bargain, with the manufacturer's recommended price being just over £3,500. So it's easy to see why this bike is the UK's best-selling 500.
ER5, it does the job. It'll get you to work and it'll do it every day for years and years. It's a bit buzzy, the engine, you need to spin it a bit hard.
Kawasaki's ER5, not quite as composed as Honda's CB500, but still a very good bike, and it's got that Kawasaki edge to its engine.
This bike is Kawasaki's answer to Suzuki's GS500e, and Kawasaki have almost succeeded in making a bike almost as boring, but I will give it a bit of credit. It's slightly more stylish and a little bit more comfortable. The courier favourite, the Kawasaki ER5 has been given a total score of 63% by our panel of experts, putting it firmly in 7th place in the chart. And in at number 6, it's KTM's LC4. The KTM LC4 Supermoto is based on their Manic EXC off-road range of bikes. It is equipped with 17-inch wheels shod with sticky road rubber, allowing this bike to carry mental corner speeds. Around a twisty back lane, this bike will hassle bigger bikes and even show some a clean pair of heels thanks to its quality suspension. Now, when you take into account this bike's outstanding performance and handling, then its Group 11 insurance rating makes it extremely tempting for those wanting to get their kicks at lower speeds. Anyone wanting an even better performing version should consider the 660 Super Competition Supermoto. It uses a race-derived motor with kickstart only, but retains the pillion pegs just in case anyone is mad enough to go out with you.
You forgive it its shortcomings the same way that you do most supermotors, because around town they are just probably the best thing. You don't look through cars, you look over them. People are going to see you coming. You're going to get off at the other end with a grin that's going to threaten to split your head open.
The LC4 it's an interesting take on this because it's a way of doing something different, I think. You don't have to, it just proves the point that you don't have to have a bike that looks like a commuter to go commuting. You can use an LC4 and then you can go and play around in the dirt at the weekends and all the rest, and probably improve your riding skills as well.
I can't believe this is classed as an insurance-friendly bike. It may look friendly, but underneath it's pure hooligan. Of course, it's got that lightweight chassis and that torquey single engine. So our panel's combined scores for each category give the KTM LC4 a total score of 69%, putting it firmly into 6th place in our top 10 chart. Well, that's the end of part 1. Join me again soon in part 2 as we continue to discover which bikes are least damaging to that wallet at insurance time. See you in a mo. Welcome back to Top 10 Bikes with me, Louise Brady. Now, in this week's show, we're looking at insurance-friendly machines. So before we continue with the rundown, let's recap on the chart so far. At number 10, the dull Suzuki GS 500e. In at 9, the Honda VT125 Shadow. Slipping in at 8, the diverse Yamaha 600 Diversion. At 7, the courier's favourite, the Kawasaki ER5. And at 6, KTM's LC4. Chuffing into the number 5 spot is the BMW F650. BMW broke the mould when they produced the F650. It's their first single-cylinder bike since the 1950s and the first chain-drive bike in their range ever. This easy-to-ride chuffer is perfect for the potential Paris-Dakar entrants out there. It's light, economical, with insurance Group 8, and it's easy to ride. Its only real downside is rapid chain wear due to the snatchy nature of those big single-cylinder engines. All the iterations of the BMW F650 are well worth a try. Comfy, dependable and fun to ride. Whether you want to be at work by clocking in time or Bombay by breakfast, there is an F650 that'll suit you. Let's find out what the panel think.
The BMW F650 Funduro is essentially a trail-styled road machine, and for somebody that wants that piece of badge engineering on their bike, it's a good way to start with BMW.
If you're a novice and you're going along at slowest speed, it starts to judder and doesn't really play ball, and you've got fairly narrow power band to work with on it. So it's not a bad bike, but and if you want a single, it's a good one, but go for a twin instead.
Very good cheap way of getting a BMW in your garage, really. Can do a bit of everything. Good solid bike. Not perhaps the most exciting single-cylinder bike out there. Certainly not as stylish as something like a Pegaso.
Well, I reckon this bike is the best BM available, and it's got some fairly decent off-road capability, and it looks pretty stylish too. So our combined scores for each category of street cred, build quality, performance, comfort and value give the BM F650 a total score of 70%, putting it firmly in 5th place in our chart. Sliding in at number 4, it's the Honda CB500. More sensible than the FZR and more grown-up than the ER5. It's Honda's CB500. It's a true all-rounder. Easy to ride for beginners and it runs forever. Definitely a courier favourite. It's had its own race series and is capable of serious motorway mileage fully laden. The only thing the CB can't do for you is the dishes. This bike is more expensive than the other 500cc twins, but its legendary Honda build quality and 2-year warranty ensure that many people are prepared to pay the difference. The economy is fabulous, more than a match for its direct competitors. Even a friend to insurers being within Group 9. The thing is about this bike, you can fill her up and ride and ride and ride until your heart's content.
The Honda CB500 is a little jewel. It's a twin-cylinder powerhouse. It looks like a commuter bike, but it's actually a very good sports bike at the same time. I've actually raced one of these things for a season, and it is really good fun.
CB500 is a seriously underrated bike, you know. They're bringing a new version out, which will be much the same, I think. But the engine's really eager. It's got a nice bit of punch to it, and it steers nicely, and you know, yeah, it commutes and things, but you can have a good laugh on that as well. Good, excellent bike.
So, adding together our panel scores for each combined category gives the economical little Honda CB500 a total score of 71%, placing it 4th in our top 10 chart of insurance friendlies. In at number 3, Suzuki's GS F650 Bandit. Suzuki's Bandits have been with us for years, so it was no surprise that for 2003 they received an update. The 600 Bandit looks better, works better and now costs less than it did a year ago, which is important seeing as one of its rivals is its stable-mate, the Suzuki SV650. Power comes from an air-cooled 599cc inline-4, which is fairly prehistoric by today's standards, but is extremely reliable and will go on forever. Producing almost 80 brake horsepower, Baby Bandits are now much loved by new riders and short wannabe hooligans. Their relatively low seat height means they're ideal for people lacking in confidence and leg length. If you're on a budget, then bear in mind that the 600 Bandit is only Group 10 insurance. Couple that to the fact that it's also at least £800 cheaper than its nearest competitor, and this bike still makes a lot of sense.
It's a great town bike, does everything you ask of it, doesn't complain. You can't really fault it for what it does.
Unfortunately, over the years, basically the competition's caught up and passed them with the Phaser and the SV650 and the Honda Hornet, which is a shame really, because the Bandit still looks the part, but it's just that the old sort of GSX 600F oil-cooled, air-cooled motor is not really providing the goods anymore. But saying that, it is a good few £100 cheaper than the competition, so it's well worth a look.
The miniature version of the hooligan bike, the GSF 1200, and this smaller bike is almost as good. It's well proportioned, it's well balanced, and of course it's got that screaming 4-cylinder motor. The Suzuki GSF 600 received a total score of 72% from our panel of experts, putting it firmly in third place in our chart. Stomping into the number 2 spot is the Ducati Monster 620. This new version of the Baby Monster is light years on from its predecessor, with a new frame housing a revised version of the air-cooled 618cc V-twin motor. This bike now has a much fatter torque curve and a higher top speed. The Monster has been Ducati's bestseller for years now, and they're constantly tweaking them to maintain their appeal. Italian style and presence ooze out of every inch of that bike. Climb aboard one and you instantly feel the need to cruise up and down your local high street. Braking has always been a strong point for the Monster. Those lovely Brembo brakes provide feel and performance to allow you to get the most from your bike. A genuinely good town machine that also lets you have some fun when the road gets twisty. This is what this Baby Monster is all about. Add to that the Group 10 insurance and you can see what all the fuss is about.
Low seat height makes it very good for people that are short of stature. Punchy little engine, Ducati reliability, Ducati build quality. Not sure it's the one that I'd pick.
A really good way of getting into riding Ducatis. Not really the best town bike, although it looks quite urban. The limited steering lock, sort of a bit of a snatchy feel low down, but it's an excellent little bike.
It's another one of these bikes that's surprisingly awkward to ride at low revs. I mean, they're better than they used to be, but it's still a little bit lumpy and the clutches are a little bit heavy, there's not much steering lock and so on.
A characterful fellow and one of my favourite bikes. That 620 has that awesome Bologna twin nestled into a very classy chassis. And there's nothing to touch that bike in the corners, and how can we ever tire of the Monster's wicked looks? Our panel's combined score for each of those categories gives the Ducati Monster 620 a total score of 75%, placing it firmly in second place in our insurance-friendly chart. So before we reveal which bike the Men and Motors panel of experts voted number 1, let's run down the chart so far. At number 10, the Suzuki GS500E. Slotting in at 9, it's the Honda VT125 Shadow. Slipping in at 8, it's Yamaha's 600 Diversion. While at 7, it's Kawasaki's ER5. Number 6 sees the unusual KTM LC4. Whilst at 5, BMW give us their F650 Funduro. The dependable Honda CB500 is in at 4, while at 3, Suzuki's Bandit 600. The Ducati Monster 620 is at number 2, so have you guessed what's at the top of this week's biking tree? The number 1 insurance-friendly bike is the Suzuki SV650. That little SV650 V-twin is a punchy bag of fun. The small capacity V-twin just wants to go as it eagerly tugs on your arms. The steering is sharp, the handling is fine, and the engine is so responsive. It sounds good too. Don't you just love the sound of that V-twin engine? The SV650 is available with or without the small half fairing, which, if you do prefer the better weather protection, will lift you a further insurance group. The unfaired version has a less sporty riding position, which will appeal to those who are more interested in comfort rather than sporting performance. Its good looks and small stature has made it a favourite with the girls, but it has all-round capabilities that appeal to a wide audience. A stonking little bike that won't break the bank to insure, so let's see why it was placed at number 1.
Decent enough performance. That twin engine's pretty pokey. It's going to give you plenty of grunt. Great bike around town. Good commuter bike. Oh, nice.
Now, if you could bottle up fun and wrap it up in a motorcycle chassis, the Suzuki SV650 would be the result. It's got a great little engine, a great little chassis, handles really well, and will embarrass a lot of bigger bikes.
SV650 is a real charmer. That's an excellent bike. I mean, you can buy that as a middleweight sports bike and enjoy it.
Our combined scores for each category of street cred, build quality, performance, comfort and value gave the Suzuki SV650 a total score of 78%.
Thank you very much, Men and Motors, for this great award, #1 insurance-friendly bike of 2003. It's great that we've received this because it validates the fact that we think it's a brilliant bike. Customers are buying it, and it's superb because it's a bike that grows with our customers, from beginners right through to experienced riders. It gives them everything they need.
Well, congratulations there to Suzuki. I think it's a tremendous little bike that's popular with many riders, particularly the girlies. Really, it's just a big pussycat that instills great confidence in any rider. Bye for now.